Confines of the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show on Power Talk 1210 KEVT. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And it is a high honor to bring in one of the most gifted multi-instrumentalists and one of the most decent human beings of all time, David Garland. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake.
So good to hear you, man. Thank you for pushing back rehearsal for just to take a little time with me on the radio today.
My pleasure, no problem.
Dave, can you talk? I know we talked about this in our first encounter, but can you talk about some of the R&B and soul outfits that you got off on as a kid when because you picked up the tenor sax, and I'm just trying to figure out, was it like Hank Ballard and the Midnighters? Who were some of the bands that you were getting off on?
All those guys, but before that, we started out, the surf craze came in, and that was when I was just first starting to play. And even though we called ourselves a surf band, and we're a surf band, nobody surfed. Everybody else did that. I think the drummer had a Woody. He may have gotten in the water a few times. But, we loved the beach. We lived at the beach, and that's what was happening. And but during that time, because we had two saxophones in the band, I think I mentioned to you that we loved all the stuff like, You Can't Sit Down and all the stuff that came out of New Orleans. And who's the great guy that just died?
Toussaint.
Yeah, Alan Toussaint.
Absolutely.
I was a huge fan of his, and we just loved all that stuff. So we played a lot of R&B in the surf band, along with a lot of twangy guitar stuff too.
Right.
So that that's basically how I started. A year before, I probably had an opportunity to play in a grammar school band, probably fifth grade. And so I started doing that, and I just kind of fell in love with the saxophone. And that's really where we were at.
Did you was it, I'm just trying to get an idea for the audience, like, was it more like a rhythm and blues style, or or was like Ornette Coleman on your radar, or was it free kind of stuff, or was it mainly just, soul blues kind of stuff?
Oh no, it was. We weren't a jazz band by any means.
I'm talking about you, like your interest though. Were you introduced to any of that free jazz stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Being a saxophone player, I just would, this is later on though, a little bit later on, and I'd just sit there and listen to Coltrane records over and over, and. I didn't. He kind of lost me when he got so advanced and so far out, and the same with other guys. Ornette Coleman, those guys kind of left me. But that around that time, I was really influenced by all the the '60s jazz groups, Jimmy Smith and. All those kind of guys, Horace Silver, and I just loved all that stuff because it became more funky. They started playing straight grooves instead of swing stuff, a lot of it, a little Latin flavors and stuff, and I really loved that. That's when the time I decided I really wanted to be part of the rhythm section. And that's kind of when I took up piano. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
It's worked out pretty well for Dave Garland. It's such an honor to talk to this cat. Is in Vegas now, and but no, I want you, for the audience and for myself too. The swing organ, you're talking like Bill Doggett, and then it went into this thing where it got funkier. But fundamentally, what was Jimmy doing, and Horace Silver, this new accent on the blues, and they were meshing it with post-bop. But from a musician's point of view, can you just talk about how it changed? Because I know it, I can hear it, but I don't know how it changed.
Well, I guess they started playing straight, like Jimmy Smith was the first guy I really started hearing, blowing 16th notes over swing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, before that it was all eighth notes and kind of loping along, and And I mean, great stuff, great players, obviously, but he was like the first guy that started playing, or maybe not the first, but that he'd hear that would play all these really fast, stuff I could never do, still can't do, but all the straight rhythms, rather than swing rhythms. All those guys, Lee Morgan, all those guys, Sidewinder, remember that song?
Oh, the backbeat, yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it was, and it was cooler. It was more danceable stuff. It was more related to pop, to rock and roll, and to classical music than it was to jazz in a lot of ways, even though these guys, they soloed like crazy over them. So, I love that stuff. I loved listen, even though I never really had a chance to play it. I made a living just playing real simple 60s rock and roll, R&B and stuff, all the midnight hour stuff, Philip Upchurch, all that kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. You never ventured into part of me pictures Garland in an organ drums duo. That was very popular for a while, but you never.
Yeah, the organ trios, or Groove Holmes, and I loved all that stuff.
Well,
I didn't play keyboard then,
well, that's
when
true.
I first started hearing that stuff.
Mm-hmm. It was also very popular to have just organ and drums, and then you could play the foot pedals and play the kick pedals and play the bass. But you were just into the rock. Tell me a little bit. This is just for history, but this band Bigfoot. How did that band come together?
Just by, like everything else in my life, by accident, just a phone call. So, even the surf band, we were real successful. For whatever reason, I don't know. But we were really popular. We made an album, and we traveled, got in our cars, and drove all over, Southern California and Northern California, and did all these Battle of the Bands and all this great stuff. And then I was still in high school through all this time, and then I went to Europe and lived in Europe for a year and a half, and because I'd saved all my money, rather than going out and spending money on dances, I was playing for them. And the leader was real, a good promoter. We'd go out after school and hang posters up, and we'd go down and rent the American Legion Hall ourselves for $25, and and sell tickets. And people had nothing else to do then, so they did that. But so Bigfoot just came when I got back from Europe, and I just got a call, and there was another band that was real successful. I mean, on a small level, small scale. But I mean, as far as work goes, I've never been out of work my whole life, and that's partly luck, partly where I grew up, partly who I knew. I told you that I went to school with Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers, so. After Bigfoot, I started working with the Righteous Brothers, and that led to a lot of other things. So,
how did who was
Bigfoot?
Who was in the band?
Was a good band.
Who was in the band?
I'm sorry.
Who was in the band?
Oh, nobody that you would know.
Okay, but how did you wind up? What label was the record on? How did you get the record deal?
I have no idea.
Wow.
Just happened. We had a manager named Ron Sunshine. Talk about a shady character he was.
Oh, man.
Somehow it put together. You know Don Randy.
I interviewed him a couple months ago. I love the cat.
Yeah, well, he produced the album.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Was it a self-titled album called Bigfoot? That's what it was.
Yeah. That's what it was. There's a stupid picture of us with our, a wide-angle fish-angle lens. We're all sitting in the Hollywood Bowl with bare feet, and it just shows a whole bunch of, 10 stinky feet. You know what a wide-angle lens can do to exaggerate things. But, Don Randy produced it, and we were at that time, we were doing covers and not only doing covers, but we were writing a lot of original stuff. The whole album was original stuff. So very early on in my career, in fact, every band I was into, or that I was part of, we wrote our own material, along with doing a lot of covers and stuff.
Sure. No, you just mentioned something about stick-to-itiveness, sort of your styles, the ability to expand out, become marketable, and your whole career has been as a musician, or in the music business, which is not easy. But I was hoping for the audience, one of the L's on my show is life, and what I mean by that is overcoming adversity. And I'm really hoping you could talk to younger musicians out there, people in general, that when you were a period of time when you were fighting it, and you had to overcome some adversity, and how you did it and how it made you stronger.
You know what, Jake? That just never happened. It just never happened. It just
right.
It was a different time and a different era. There were bars on every corner. There were places to work. We worked every night, and we rehearsed during the day. And after work, it was alcohol and chasing women. I'm not a very deep person. I just the thing that lacked in most of those bands was the technical end of each of us being proficient on our instruments and stuff. We were really good because we rehearsed all the time. We fought it out in the garage. We learned how to get along with people. Real valuable lessons. But as far as being proficient on our instruments, I didn't know anything about technique. I didn't have any teachers or anything. I'm real self-taught.
Right, I love that. I love the street scholar mentality. I mean, you just said getting along with people. I mean, how did you learn how to do that? Getting
in a garage and fighting out, telling someone not to play that anymore, and
right.
Getting in fights with people and just working through it all.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
We knew we had a good thing going, and we were working all the time, and it was each club we moved to, we got a little bit more money. It was crazy. I thought that every club had live music then. You want to talk to young musicians this day and age, man, I wouldn't have a lot of positive things to say about the music business.
It's true, and it's just it's more. We're talking to a very deep cat, whether he knows it or not. And Garland, I've been waiting to play this for you live on the radio since the inception of my show. So let's take a listen to this piece of music, and then we'll come back and break it down.
Okay.
Music on the Jake Feinberg Show, sponsored in part by the Circle Tree Ranch, Abbott Taylor Jewelers, the Tucson Jewish Community Center of Southern Arizona, and the Stereo Hospital. And thank you for your support so we can play things like that. Honestly, Garland, my career could end now, and I'd be absolutely able to I'd be at peace at this point. I've been waiting to do that for you for a long time, man.
That's vaguely familiar to me.
That is a live show from Music Mountain, New York, June 16th, 1982. Bobby and the Midnites in a driving rainstorm. I don't know if you remember that tour was very special, but Garland, the thing about your solo, Cochran's explosive, obviously, but I can't stop listening to your piano solo because it's like this. We talked about the surf earlier, not surfer band, but the wave. It just sounds like a wave. And it takes off, and the crowd is just going with it. And obviously, it helps to have Al Johnson and Billy there driving the rhythm as well. But, dude, monster, man, you're a monster. And can you just talk a little bit about just the fun of that band? You guys were all singing high pitch, but how did you get connected with Bobby? I know Bigfoot opened for the Dead in '70, but that was a long time. How did you reconnect with Bobby, and then talk about that band itself, a powerhouse group?
Are you sure that was me playing?
Garland, I'm positive.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take your word for it.
No, because you know why I know it's you, because that was the opening song, Bombs Away, but then a few songs later on, I think Youngblood or something, Bobby had that here's the new guy. So I know it's you. I know it's
okay. Yeah, when we opened up for the Dead, it was bizarre. That was with Bigfoot, and and they were telling us stuff like, "Well, don't when you walk down the staircase, don't put your hand on the rail or anything." It was that kind of mentality, and it was with Taj Mahal and some other group, I think, and we got in on that. It was what a thrill that was.
Right.
That was the big time for us. So I never met Weir then. I never met any of those guys. We just did our thing and tried not to drink any of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, they said don't drink from any open containers, right? I mean, they were used to that, dosing people.
Well, yeah, we like that stuff, but we figured, it's best if we don't go out there and play on it.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, I got an opportunity to get involved with Weir, whom I just love dearly, man. I just saw him on an interview with Dan Rather. Did you see that?
No, I have. I haven't seen the thing at all, really.
It's good, man. He always has interesting things to say, and he's very articulate still. And he was just a joy for me. It was the most fun time of my life ever. But I had the opportunity, of course, when Brent died. And is it Brent or Brett?
No, I want to be clear about something. Brent was in the band.
Yeah.
But then he got into the Dead and started to make a lot of money. So he didn't go on. He left. He didn't die till 1990. So you joined the band in replace of him, but he didn't need the money anymore.
Right.
So go ahead.
Yeah, well, anyway, when he died and they decided they were going to go out on the road again, Bobby Cochran was my friend, and I'd worked with Bobby quite a bit in different venues, and so I got that opportunity, and I just showed up at a rehearsal, and they said, "Okay, you're in."
Wait, what was the? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me tell you about that solo. First of all, let me just say that I'm blessed I have really good musical instincts. What I lacked in the technique and stuff, I'd just shut my eyes and just go for it. I'd get scared, shut my eyes, and just go for it. And that's pretty much how I played up until my 60s or 50s or something. But where was
that
I?
solo? What's that solo? Talk about that solo.
Oh yeah, I mean, I really didn't. I would jump into those things without any kind of preconceived idea of what I was going to do, and that's the beauty of jazz, and that's the way jazz should be played. It is to certain amount, you know. So, but that was really fun times, you know, and of course meeting Billy and Alphonso and later Kenny Gradney, all great guys, great players, and what a great organization. I had more fun being on the road with them, you know, everything, the best road crew, everything, you know, and plus Weir let us all profit share in the tours, and it was great. It was just more fun than I've ever had, probably, and ever will have.
I mean, I'm still,
the solo, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, it's just like a wave.
It's just an accumulation of what I'd learned over the years, and I don't remember playing that song that fast.
Well, I'm going to send you a CD. I know you'd be in disbelief, but I mean, compared to our first Phantom interview that's disappeared now into the vortex, this is a dream come true. I mean, don't you think some of that? Again, you've been closing your eyes and just hitting it for years, like you said, till your 60s. But Weir was the type of guy. He didn't have an answering machine. He'd show up when he wanted to. Some of that looseness came from Weir as a leader, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. Oh, he was. I just love that guy. You know, he was just great to be around. You know, and he, you know, he would just come with, you know, it was a good band because it wasn't like the Dead really. It was different.
Absolutely,
you know,
different.
because of real strong personalities like Cobham and Alphonso and Cochran. You know, so. You know, he just didn't have total control over that band. He'd just have fragments of tunes, and we'd just kind of put them together.
You know. No, and Dave, can you talk a little bit about, you know, you are modest, but can you talk about your experience in the LA studio scene, just being part of it? You're not, you know, I mean, your name... It's not like you know, like part of the section with Lee Sklar and Craig Durgee and Russ Kunkel and, you know, or Keltner, but you were there prolifically. What was your big break to get into the studio scene, and what are your thoughts about that now? Because really, the music industry has obviously changed into pretty much a small business now. I mean, there isn't really much of a studio scene anymore.
Very clearly, it was all because of Paul Williams.
Can you talk about how that evolved?
Yeah, I met him, gosh, when I don't know, anyway, he showed up before he had ever written a song. I met him, he looked like he was 12 years old, and he was 22, and, you know, tried to buy a beer. We were in a bowling alley, I remember. He tried to buy a beer, and even with his ID and stuff, they wouldn't sell it to him. That's what he looked like. I don't know if you've ever seen any pictures of him.
No.
It's just fascinating to see, because he just looked like a normal 12-year-old kid, even though he was in his 20s. So anyway, then I never saw him again for years and years and years, and I got a call from a guitar player who had moved up to L.A., who was in Bigfoot, and said, this guy was always good to me because he was a great guitar player. His name's Art Munson.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be a good interview for you.
Absolutely.
So he got me on the David Cassidy tours, which were huge, big-time tours, you know, as far as success. And you know, we're playing to sold-out, you know, soccer stadiums in Australia and all over the world, really. Mm-hmm. So that was a great tour. But Paul Williams, so he gave me a call and said, look, I got, you know, Paul Williams, would you be interested in doing this? And I said, are you talking about the same little guy that writes these love songs? And he said, yeah. And I said, wow, I met him a long time ago. And so it's another job that I just walked into. I didn't have to audition. I've never gotten when I've had to audition, I've gotten nervous and blown it every time. I've never gotten an audition job, except for Ike and Tina Turner, and that's because he wasn't there at the time. We put it on tape. But anyway, Paul was the greatest opportunity in the world for me because, and as a matter of fact, the guys you just mentioned did all of his very first couple albums, Lee Sklar and Russ Kunkel and all those guys, Craig Durgee.
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't. Paul wasn't making enough money to pay for them to go out on the road, so that's when I jumped in there. And I wound up working with him for 8 years, and it was fabulous because I went from being a second keyboard player, playing Hammond organ and a little a little saxophone, a few sax solos, and from that, when the conductor decided he didn't want to do it, that's when I started playing piano, and they got a conductor, and then the conductor didn't want to do it, so I started conducting and playing piano, and all the meantime, recording on all his albums. So, and that was all at A&M Studios, and it was all just a great opportunity. I actually when we weren't traveling, I got into doing all the demo sessions at A&M. There were just a ton of songwriters that were coming through there with, their own original material, trying to get deals and stuff. So I'd go in there and do piano vocal demos with these guys, and they'd just show up with a chord sheet or nothing sometimes, and so that was really a great experience.
Two questions come from that. How many demos did you do on A&M that were released and you never got credit as the accompanist on it?
I think they were all pretty much just demos and then redone, with other players at that time.
And then
it was a great preparation for. I'll tell you where I did do a lot of studio work was when the Christian market opened up, and it became. I started doing just tons of albums and stuff for. I just got in on the early days of the Christian rock and roll music scene,
like the Mirror label, like MYRRH. That kind of Christian music with Michael.
Yeah, Sun Song.
Yep, Sparrow.
Geez, I can't really remember all of the other ones, but a couple of producers in particular that was always working. They're always used me, and a really great songwriter named Denny Correll that had a lot of albums out, and he was also in Bigfoot for a while.
Dave, before you run off, can you talk a little bit about? You're living in Vegas now. Can you talk about some of the gigs you got going on, projects, and just break it down a little bit and bring it into the modern time?
Well, I've been here about 15 years, and I never ever thought I'd wind up living here, but I did. And economics, for one reason, there was a lot of work. But I was in the house band at the House of Blues for a long time, and the leader of that band was married to the corporate salesperson. So we did all of the corporate parties, and there were 2 or 3 a week.
Wow.
And of course they paid about 10 times as much as just being in a lounge band. So it's great. I made a really nice living doing that. And then I did another show at the Sahara with the Drifters, Platters, Coasters, and sometimes the Marvelettes sometimes. But the show ran for 7 years. It was a great show.
Are you kidding me? You just you're name dropping these soul outfits like this is not garden variety stuff. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, but it was the kind of stuff that I could play that I was good at. It was real simple, and I knew how to do that.
Right.
So. It wasn't until later after that all of a sudden I'm throwing out there, and all of a sudden there wasn't as much work, and I went, and there's just a ton of really great players here in Vegas. That's when I said, boy, I better start working a little harder and, becoming a better player. Especially technically, and, playing with Paul was another gig that was, they're all slow-tempoed, real diatonic kind of stuff. There was nothing real fancy about that stuff. You had to just play as beautiful as you can and with as much space as you can. And most people don't learn to do that stuff growing up.
Did you?
They want to play like crazy, man. Let's go crazy.
Well, and also just flurries of notes and monster technique as opposed to the feeling of the soul. One final question for you, Garland, before I let you go. Did you get to hang? What was that Lugano experience like in '83. I know you went with the Midnites, but I just saw a rare video clip of Gil Evans on that bill. What was that experience like for you?
Another fabulous Bobby and the Midnites experience. And Billy put that all together.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing experience. I'll tell you right now, and I thought I could play the saxophone, and I sat outside in the hall where we were doing all this, and Michael Brecker was there too.
Right. Right.
And he walked into the bathroom with a box of reeds, and I sat there for about an hour and listened to him play outside. And it sounded like a great recording studio. And what he was playing, it just was blowing me away. My jaw just dropped. But outside of that, this was a whole musical journey or something that Billy was trying to put together, and I listened to those guys, the big bands and the Brecker brothers, and I went, my gosh, Bobby and the Midnites here, I don't get it.
Because I'm looking back here, it was when I interviewed one of my interviews with Cobham, he said there was something about bringing Bobby and the Midnites on a stage in Lugano. It was a big salute to have the group along with Herbie, Gil Evans, and Louis Bellson all in the same project. I mean, that to me is that's the essence. Whatever he was trying to pursue, that's the kind of music. I mean, it's music. It's either good or bad, and you just put that together. And for those interested out there, the entire Bobby and the Midnites performance is available in ProShot DVD form on YouTube, and it is. And then there's another show that just popped up from '84 with Garland on keys from the Passaic, New Jersey. That's out there too with Gradney. So
wow.
I mean, there's tremendous stuff out there, Garland. And I'll tell you something. My wife is desperate to get to Vegas, bring the kids. They want to do all the buffets and this, that, and the other thing. But I'll tell you, we got a date for a cup of coffee and a beer when I get out there, brother. I want to meet you in person.
That sounds great, Jake.
All right, man, and go off and play some dissident notes at the church today for me. All right.
No problem with that.
All right, man. It was a pleasure, man.
Thank you, Jake.
All right, we'll be back in a little bit on the Jake Feinberg Show.